Welcome back, everyone, to another segment of Teachable Moments on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with Dr. Mekia Troy and her Teachable Moment number 10. But first, we want to give a shout out to our podcast partners, the global community of women in high school sports. We coach Vital Signs Wall of Fame and the Florida Coaches Coalition. These are 4 great organizations. You've heard me talk about them many times before. You should really add them to your network. Now, let's hear from our podcast sponsors. Don't hit that fast forward button. These are all great organizations. You should really add them to your network. We want to say thanks to Gipper for their support. Gipper's the official social media graphic solution for the podcast. If you go to Gipper.com, their team is going to show you how to create world-class content for your school's social media channel. Celebrate your athletes, promote your teams. Go to Gipper.com to find out more. We also want to say thanks to Snap Mobile. Go to snapraise.com. That's the fundraising platform. Check out their entire suite of platforms, but check out SnapRaise. Hands down, the best fundraiser out there. It flat out works. Okay, go to snapraise.com/EDAD to get started. We also want to say thank you to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to their website, check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's a great way to showcase your school record board, your school's Hall of Fame, or simply tell about your school's proudest moments. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We want to thank Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We want to thank Huddle. Go to huddle.com, change the way you see the game. When I was a football coach, I used Huddle just about every day, and it was fantastic. But when I became an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches found out that Huddle has the tools to help them coach our kids up to the highest level. Join the 8 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. We want to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, schedule a live web demo, see their tables and their boards in action. Raise money for your department and create the ultimate game day experience. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to thank Home Campus, the exclusive high school and state association platform for us. It's also your one-stop for things like scheduling, student-athlete eligibility and clearance, and a whole lot more. As an AD, I used Home Campus every single day, so will you. All you have to do is go to homecampus.com. That's homecampus.com. And we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Watch them create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. The information that survey provides is a very valuable tool when you're talking with a frustrated parent or your principal or your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com to get started. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Teachable Moments. This is episode number 10, featuring Dr. Mekia Troy, CMAA, and she's the athletic director at Creekside High School up in Georgia. This is a weekly series where Dr. Troy shares, her perspective and her wisdom on a variety of topics. So, welcome back. As we said off camera, what do you have for our listeners this week on Teachable Moment?
Hello there. Glad to be back to talk through some things a little bit today. Today, I want to focus a little on integrity. It's a big term that comes around in the education setting, of course, and we often hear it defined as doing the right thing when nobody's watching. Something that we often would expect from our student athletes and our coaches, of course, but it needs to be modeled and communicated. And we don't want to be afraid in challenging situations to make sure that we are ourselves as athletic administrators showing that same integrity that we want from our student athletes and our coaches. If you're in one of these challenging situations, or if there's a potential violation within your athletic department, would you self-report it? Would you turn yourself in? That's something that comes up from time to time. But integrity, it's not something that you want to get into the heat of the moment and then decide if you're going to go one way or the other. This is something that you want to be sure about before you get into these tense situations. So it doesn't matter if the powers that be won't know, or if you can get away with it this time. If you're going to let it slide once and other people see it, you're going to set a precedent that you can let other things go, or that you'll look past other rules, regulations, and you just don't want that in your athletic department, because it can have some detrimental impact on your coaches, your student athletes, or even your school, and maybe even you as an athletic administrator. There's a time within our program when, when I started out pretty young, there were some veteran coaches who were here, and, just because they were experienced doesn't mean that their way was the right way, but they were sure in what they were doing. And we qualified for the state track meet. 4x1 relay team was hoping to return as champions or repeat as champions. So we were looking forward to the opportunity. However, one of our main guys was injured right before going into the regionals. Had an alternate. The alternate looked great leading into the state meet. So we were excited about that. They could still bring it home. I wasn't able to attend the meet, but I was able to follow along online. And this was some time ago, so it wasn't live streamed or anything like that, but I was able to follow along with the times and the different heats. I didn't find out that the alternate that was added to the race was injured until after they ran. And it wasn't that I found out because we lost the race. It was because we actually won the race and won the championship. But there was a celebration picture taken. It didn't have the same person in the picture. And I thought something about this is not quite right. These are not the names that I'm seeing online as I'm following along. So I decided to wait before I confronted the head coach. And let me just ask an assistant coach first to make sure I'm not, blowing things out of proportion, and find out maybe I'm misreading something since I wasn't there. And I asked the assistant coach, and I could tell already when he hesitated in speaking to me that something was not quite right. And then he let me know that he didn't have all the details, but suggested that I speak to the student athlete that was different from the picture than the names that were listed online. So, of course, I found the student athlete, and he told me everything. He was at the meet as a spectator. He was one of our JV runners at the time. He was there as a spectator in the stands. And when that alternate was hurt, the head coach came to him and said, "Hey, come run as him." Gave him the uniform, gave him the shoes, but he was not one of our official runners for the state meet. And I was blown away that that would even cross someone's mind that it was okay for that to happen. But I did appreciate the student athlete being honest with me, telling me everything that happened, because that gave me a chance to go to the principal, explain the situation, and then we could address the head coach. When we did speak to him, his comments were, everybody does this. He makes excuses for it. And, it just further let us know that he wasn't the right person to stay in a leadership role within this program, because what he chose to do, it might have helped us, but it probably hurt someone else's opportunity, when rightfully so, we had an injured athlete and should not have been able to continue in the way that we did. So I had to report the situation to our state association, and our win was vacated. Our repeat championship was vacated, and it was tense on campus for a little while, but I was able to feel good about the high level of integrity that we were able to show in leadership here at the school, so that our coaches could see it and the student athletes could see that we actually would hold true to it. We meant what we said. And I think it has helped us to move forward and set that example for the years that have gone since then, as to doing the right thing. No matter what, we can't be a win at all cost program and put us in jeopardy. If everything was okay, then there wouldn't have been a violation when we reported the situation to the state association. So obviously it wasn't handled the right way. I recently saw a quote on social media that pretty much perfectly sums up the situation, that says, "Don't sacrifice integrity on the altar of loyalty." It's incredible how many people, because they want to cover up for their friend or an assistant covering for the head coach or whatever the case may be, just in an effort to be loyal, they consider breaking rules or cutting corners, and it can lead to so many other issues. So it's something that we just don't want to set an example to do, and make sure that our stakeholders understand that we are going to hold a high level of integrity within our program. So as an AD, just recognize that you can't let your loyalty cloud your judgment when it comes to doing what's right.
Boy, and again, sounds like you did handle that very difficult situation, extremely well. And the coach, who made that decision, maybe it was an assistant coach that went to the head coach and said, "Hey, let's do this," or maybe it was just the head coach on his own. But again, the head coach has that final say. The pressure that he put on those assistants and the kids, because they all knew that it wasn't right. So it's not just something that happens in isolation. When these decisions, these missteps are made, and
Right.
kudos to you for handling it professionally. Figuring out easily that coach wasn't the best fit. But that sends a message to everybody else, the kids, the coaches, the parents. Hey, this is how we roll. This is our level of this is the standard. This is our integrity. Great stuff. And the expression, everybody's doing it. Well, you and I have done this for a long time. We know everybody's not doing it. Okay. That's why they have these rules in place. The rules in every state association policy book, whether it's Georgia, Florida, or any other state, those rules come from the coaches. They're approved by the athletic directors. They're approved by the principals and all those different committees that go up at the state association level. So no, everybody's not doing it. Okay?
Not at all. Not at all. It was crazy situation, but we got through it. And it's ironic that now even that ruling as a state has changed, and they've allowed for alternates to be added a little bit later, probably not as late as the start of the race and pull somebody out of the stands, but it has, the alternates have increased in recent years.
Right. Yeah. And Florida's very similar. You have, I think it's like you can put up to 8 names on the alternate list for your relay team. So if you're not getting any possible kid that can run, that's just bad coaching. I'm just a track coach, so I know I know about that. Dr. Troy, thanks as always for sharing. Just another great lesson. If one of our listeners wants to reach out, pick your brain a little bit more, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can find me on social media. It's DrTroyme, Dr. Troy Me, or send me an email, drtroyme@gmail.com. Be happy to chat with you.
And if you go to Twitter, it's still going to be recent enough. You can see Dr. Troy, I won't say back in the day, but a little while ago, actually juggling as part of, a presentation she made for us a couple episodes back. Great video. She's got a very strong Twitter game. Okay. Dr. Troy, thanks as always for sharing. All the best with the rest of the fall and as we transition into the winter season.
All right. Thank you so much.
For our listeners, we do this every single week, and we upload the Zoom recordings to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Of course, we appreciate you listening. Come back next week for another teachable moment, and just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Wow, another great lesson from Dr. Mekia Troy. Before we go, we do want to acknowledge our sponsors. These are all companies I used as an athletic director. You should really be using them too. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Start taking the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle. As an AD, we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com. See all the things they can do for you and your coaches. Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Mention the podcast, you'll get a nice discount. vitalsignswalloffame.com. We want to thank Snap Mobile. If you are tired of doing fundraisers that just don't work out, you need to go to snapraise.com/EDAD. Hands down, the best fundraiser online out there. It works. Okay. Go to snapraise.com/EDAD. We also want to say thank you to Gipper. Gipper is so easy to use. Even I can use it. Start creating world-class content for your school's social media channel. Go to Gipper.com, mention the podcast. You'll also get a nice discount from them. We want to thank Home Campus. Home Campus is the exclusive high school and state association management platform for us. It's also your one-stop for things like scheduling, student athlete eligibility and clearance, and a whole lot more. To get started, just go to homecampus.com. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. You've heard me say Sideline Interactive is probably the best purchase I ever made as an AD. Their indoor score table is just fantastic. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. And we want to thank Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com. Thanks again for listening to this teachable moment. We'll see you next week on the Educational AD Podcast.